Good evening. Ansett New Zealand showed off its new Whisper Jets to Queenstown people today when one of its new BA146200s flew into the town's airport for the first time. Mark Price has the details.
For those who live near the airport, the noise factor has been the main concern about commercial jet services, but the 146-200 is designed with the peace and quiet of places like Queenstown in mind. The training flight by the so-called Whisper Jet was direct from Auckland, and on board were technicians and staff preparing the way for the beginning of the new jet service this weekend. Some locals, however, today got a sneak preview, a once around the block that seemed to impress everyone. On Saturday, invited guests from up north will travel direct from Auckland for the official launch. Then, on Sunday, Ansett gets down to business with a full commercial service between Christchurch and Queenstown. The flying time between the two centres should be just half an hour. As for a direct link between Auckland and Queenstown, that won't happen until October and will even then be dependent on demand.
The first step in a $250,000 drought relief package for North Otago farmers got off the ground today. A truckload of poplar wands donated by the Otago Catchment Board arrived at Palmerston. They're to be distributed to farmers to plant out as reserve feed in dry periods. Kathy Graham reports.
Lush foliage like this has already proved a boon to farmers in the north in dry periods. Sheep and cattle go for the leaves and do well on them. Not surprisingly, they're as nutritious as lucerne and just as tasty.
The amount of food value in the poplars is very high. It's 90% dry matter in the poplars that we're bringing up here, and it's very high value for the sheep.
The Otago Catchment Board's hoping farmers in North Otago will pick up on the idea as an emergency stock feed in drought periods.
They're coming to it now. It's been a bit slow to take up, but we started 6 of us started off with a bit of an initial burst, and slowly got a wee bit of more support now.
The board's donating about 6,000 wands from surplus poplars at a Catchment Board nursery near Balclutha that's being closed.
A lot of this material would have just been bulldozed and burnt, so the board felt that it was a good idea to use it for something positive rather than just burn it up.
Palmerston farmers who'll be planting out the wands on their own properties made quick work of doubling their number. They'll be stored in the Shag River for a week or so before being distributed for planting. About 25 farmers in North Otago are participating in the scheme. The wands are free, but farmers will have to provide fencing. Then it's up to Mother Nature to work the magic.
Two major conservation issues in the south will be discussed at important meetings tonight. In Oamaru, a joint Oamaru Borough Waitaki County Committee will decide whether to buy land it needs for rubbish disposal. The committee has options on 3 sites, but the one favoured by the consulting engineer is here at Bushy Beach Road. It's just over the hill from a colony of rare penguins, and that's raised a storm of protest from conservationists. In Dunedin, the Silver Peaks County has called a meeting to try to settle arguments over quarrying at Blackhead, which conservationist groups claim is threatening the unusual rock formation. A 71-year-old Dunedin man, William Grundy, has been treated cruelly and insensitively, according to opposition leader Jim Bolger. Mr Grundy came to Dunedin from England 50 years ago, but recently struck problems obtaining citizenship. Mr Bolger is calling for Immigration Minister Stan Roger to apologise to Mr Grundy, who has finally become a New Zealand citizen, but not before he was forced to return to England. He's due back home in Dunedin in September. Being in debt is one thing almost everyone can relate to, especially students. But ironically, 2 former Dunedin students have turned having no money into a great money-making possibility. David Jameson explains.
It's called Poverty Line, a game for broke bankers and overdrafted students alike. The object, overspend to excess, budget to the maximum, and the first to go broke wins. The motivation to create their own board game was simple enough for designers Bill Howard and Dave Nixon.
Our bank balance. We came up with the idea and then we thought and then we sort of the idea itself was quite a simple concept, but working out all the bits and pieces and how everything was going to interrelate. And we had so much fun doing that, and we just had to get up and do it.
Nice doing business with you.
The nearest description of the game is a sort of warped monopoly. Players choose one of 6 businesses and give secret values to the business's assets. They're the red cards. Unknowingly buy a big money spinner from your opponent and you've set yourself back. Sell all your assets and spend all your money and you've reached the goal. And of course, along the way, there are all sorts of bonuses.
Your dog visits a graveyard, pays $70,000 to put the bones back.
This isn't Bill Howard and Dave Nixon's first venture into board games. They've also made a drinking game called Skulls and Bottles, but it's probably not a good idea to tell you too much about that. The two are unsure of the game's future, but for now they seem content to play out their version of riches to rags.
And we've heard that an Auckland entrepreneur is actually interested in marketing the game. A former Dunedin film editor, who's now based in New York, has been nominated for an Emmy Award. Margot Francis gained the nomination for editing the South African black rights movie Serafina. The Emmys will be decided in September. Last year, Margot won an International Editing Award for her work on a Bette Midler programme. Queenstown's annual Winter Festival, which started at the weekend, has attracted thousands of people to events as diverse as cow chip tossing and helicopter displays. Competitors in the various events have been in the air, in the water and in the snow, and there's been something to light up every evening. The cold was no deterrent to these hardy competitors. Of course, some had fur coats on. And as well as those keen on the water, there were some who liked it a little more solid. Looks a bit messy, though. Of course, there are always those who can make their own fun. Good night.